And we wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper or an athlete. Because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people.
We did not go to college because we was too busy trying to figure out how to pay for lunch because our daddies was in prison because y'all kept putting shit in the street to make sure they went to prison so that we could not afford lunch, so that we therefore could not afford college.
My video about black men not going to college got comments all over the map. Some commenters who work in education say, yes, it's hard to get black men to see themselves as college students. I'm a high school teacher. I'm trying to help them. But a lot of my black male students are scared of college. As a high school counselor, I see this firsthand. They have become so disconnected from school despite all the interventions we try. Some of this is black males thinking they're not up to it intellectually. If they don't see black teachers, they may not see a place for themselves in academia. And they get a lot of messages from their peers that being smart and getting good grades is not cool. Studies have shown that black children have fewer friends the higher grades they have, something we don't really see among white kids. We see black students being socially punished by other students for doing the work to get good grades. And black male students are often punished faster in a school environment, leading to all of them wanting to recede. But yes, some students are making a thoughtful and principled choice to go to trade school or vocational school instead. And a lot of people in the comments defended them. I disagree. Trades are the fastest and most efficient path to middle class. I understand for some that is the right choice intellectually and financially. A lot of people said they do not want to go into debt to go to a 4-year college. But here's the thing. People tend to make significantly more money after getting a college degree than after going through vocational school. I found this chart that shows the vast difference in earnings. You can pause to read. Liberal arts college is not for everyone, for sure, but a lot of people are making the choice to not go out of fear. Yes, society needs people to do the honorable work that is taught at vocational schools, but if we have 75 or 65% of black men in Gen Z go into trades or just not go to 4-year colleges at all, there's going to be a significant amount of wealth that does not come into the black community that could have come in if they had pursued college degrees. I'm talking about a loss for the entire community. When people skip college, the chance to get to the middle class is much harder. People with bachelor's degrees make at least $1 million more in median earnings throughout their lifetime than people who only have a high school degree. That's a lot of wealth that the community is not going to see. And if you understand black collective economics, you understand this is a massive potential blow to our power, our economic power.
I hate to agree with a man, but the brothers are right. Nobody was supporting the black boys going to college. If you were not on an athletic full scholarship track, nobody's paying attention to you. It doesn't matter if you were a B or C plus student, you were not getting the attention from administrators, counselors, or your parents to be on a college track. And I'm telling you this because I went to a 99.9% black high school that supported all the students in making some postgraduate decisions, whether it was going to college on a full scholarship, whether academic or athletic, or going to the military. They had a recruiter in there every single week at the last semester of senior year, recruiting the boys and the girls. I can say now as an adult, if you were not an athletic person, athletic young man, people were not paying attention if you were going to college. They were not telling you what scholarships were available. And that's just the truth about it. Not even to take into account what was happening in people's households. I grew up in a very chaotic household, and college for me as a black woman whose father was serving 15 plus years and growing up with a single mom who had her own mental health issues, college was my escape. I wanted to go to hair school, but I knew that if I went to hair school, I had to stay at home. And so I knew I was going to run to college to get away from my living environment to make a future for myself. But that's because I was ingrained in my head in high school because of counselors, mentors, administrators, and teachers who actually cared to pour those options into me. And so when we talk about why the boys are not going to college, if you are not on a full scholarship athletic track, they're not paying the young boys any attention. And if you are that pro football player, but you don't get that full scholarship by January, February of senior year, people are tossing you to the side. They don't care what the hell happens to you. So let's stop gaslighting the guys and start really figuring out how can we better support the young men that are going from high school and transitioning into the real world. Because the T is we're not supporting them, and that's just the truth.
So is it a lack of ambition, or is it a calculated move, a response to a system that feels rigged? This is the Nick Report, and I'm your host Nick, and today we're gonna break down the complex layers behind the decline in college enrollment for black men and why sports and music feel like the only viable exit strategies from these struggles. Think about who gets the most shine in our community. So when a young black man turns on the TV, who does he see? He sees LeBron James, right? Or Kendrick Lamar. Men who look like him and have actually achieved massive and great wealth, respect. Compare that to the visibility of a black actuary, a black civil engineer, or even a black tech founder. Do they exist? Yes, they do exist, but they are not marketed to the young men. Well, in marketing, there's a saying that goes like, if you can't see it, you can't be like it. So how can these young black men be ambitious and go to school and learn to be actuaries or civil engineers or tech founders if they only, if only the singers and the athletes are the ones that are being marketed to them?
We have to stop making these kids feel bad if they're pursuing academics over sports. We have to stop. There's a young man who's a good friend of mine, and his father passed away from cancer around 13 years ago. And I promised his father I'd take care of his son. His son is a very good athlete, and he's going into his senior year, and he's being recruited by some major universities. I'm talking about Notre Dame, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue. And he called me. Papa Swole. He said, everybody's mad at me because I'm committing my senior year, but the school I want to commit to, everybody's mad at me. I said, what school? He said, I want to commit to Air Force Academy or the Naval Academy. And I was like, great. I said, what made you pursue them two? He said, I want to major in aerospace engineering. I want to be a pilot. He said, I want to go to the Air Force Academy and afterwards serve my country, do my 4 years, then go into, I'm going to go work for Delta or something like that, become a pilot. And I said, so it sounds like you got your head on right. I said, well, what's wrong? He said, there are a lot of people upset at me because they think I should go to a big time school with my talent. He said, but that's not what I want to do. And he said, my academic advisor, she supports me. She said, but my football coach doesn't support me. And I told him, I said, look, it's your life. Do what you want to do and make your decision. And he said, he said, football, I love it. He said, but playing in the future is really not my dream. He said, if it happens, and it happens. And he said, my dream is to be a pilot. People, we got to stop. We got to stop it. These are different times. These kids, they see athletes, with behavior issues, mental health issues from brain injuries and can't walk and stuff like that. And these kids want to pursue their dream, but we're making them feel bad because they choose academic over sports. We got to stop that. I'm an athlete, and I wish somebody would have pushed me because I didn't know how much I like academics. Like, I love reading. I love math. You know, I love English and stuff like that. But I was always pushed to play sports. Play sports. We got to stop, people. These kids are more intelligent than you think they are. Here's a young man going to his senior year in high school, and he wants to commit. But he doesn't want to commit to a Notre Dame or Wisconsin or Purdue or Indiana. You know, he wants to go to the Air Force Academy or the Naval Academy to study aerospace engineering. What is wrong with that? Why would anybody think that this is not a great idea? I think it's a super idea. Not every kid's dream is to go to the NFL or the NBA. These kids are very, very intelligent. We got to stop, people. We put too much emphasis on sports and not enough on education. Too much.
And we wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper or an athlete. Because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people. See, brothers and sisters, we invented the gas mask. And we wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the gas mask. We wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the stoplight. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the self-lubricating engine. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the refrigerated truck, the golf tee, the radio transmitter. We weren't sitting next to white children when we came up with the technology for the cell phone or the internet. All of these things we did on our own in those old, dilapidated black schoolhouses right here in Jacksonville, Florida. See, what y'all don't know is the reason the Supreme Court desegregated the schools was not to give black children a better education. The Supreme Court desegregated the schools on May 17th, 1954, because the white power structure was afraid that if we don't take over the education of black children, they may one day surpass our own children. You know what gave birth to these black Wall Streets? Those dilapidated black schoolhouses. And America was scared that if you don't bring the Negro under our direct academic supervision, he will surpass our white children. They didn't integrate the schools to help us out. They integrated the schools to dumb us down. You don't believe me? Guess what? Intelligence tests done on children from birth to age 5 reveal that African babies outperform the children, the infants of any other race, including the Asians. Our children outperform all other groups. They even tell you in developmental psychology that black children grow quicker than all the other children put together. Well, if the brain is responsible for intelligence, and if the brain is responsible for physical development, if the black child physically grows quicker than the other children, doesn't it also reason that the black child might be intellectually quicker than the other children also? That's why they came up with these IQ tests. I need you to understand something, Jacksonville, Florida. Testing came to America so they could segregate against black people. Let me say that one more time. The reason you got to take an LSAT to go to law school, the reason you got to take an MCAT to go to med school, the reason you got to take an SAT to go to college, the reason you got to take a GRE to go to grad school, the reason you got to take an exam to be a police officer or take an exam to be a fighter is because through the tests, they can engineer who passes and who fails. I'm going to go a step further because some of you are saying, no way. You're not going to convince me that they can engineer a test that will guarantee the whites pass and the blacks fail. How can they do such a thing, Dr. Umar? Let me explain it to you. Every test in the world goes through a process known as standardization. Let me tell you what standardization is, because I participated in the standardization for the most popular intelligence test in this country and the most popular achievement test in this country. Standardization is the process of testing the different demographics of your society. You pre-test everybody. Follow me. You're going to test poor black children. You're going to test rich black children. You're going to test single-parented black children. You're going to test black kids whose parents only have a high school diploma. You're going to test black children whose parents have a master's degree. You're going to do the same for the Arabs, the same for the Anglo-Saxons, the same for the Jews, the Arabs, the East Indians, the Latinos. Everybody, you're going to pre-test the test. So when they pre-test the test, they have the evidence of how you will perform on the final test. Stay with me. When your child takes a reading comprehension exam on the Florida State Assessment, the Georgia State Assessment, there might be 12 questions on that test. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. The math section, it might be 12 questions. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. My question for y'all tonight, how did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pre-test that they gave the children all over America in secret? How did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pretest to the 12,000 items on the final test? They looked at how the black scored. They looked at how the white scored. They looked at how the Asians scored. So when you hear these news releases and programs telling you that black children are 10 points less intelligent than the whites, black children are 10 points less intelligent than the Asians, I need you to remember that Dr. Umar already told me that y'all tested the test before y'all came up with the final test, so y'all knew how the black children will do before they took the test. They engineer black failure. Do you know why? Standardized testing is the new Jim Crow sign. The way you keep black people out of opportunity is give them a test, engineer the test, and when they fail or score low on the test, you don't have to say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you black. You say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you ain't score high enough. The test score does the same thing the no blacks Jim Crow sign does. But the added advantage of the test score is you're using numbers and not words. And because you're using numbers and not words, black people think they have a fair chance. When we give an IQ test, brothers and sisters, there's 4 major sections of the intelligence test. There's processing speed, how fast you can execute intellectually. Black children do as well as Asians and Caucasians. There's working memory, how well you can hold information in your mind and manipulate it. Black children do as well as Asians and Anglo-Saxons. There's nonverbal reasoning, how well you can solve problems for which you receive no education, like a Rubik's Cube. Black children do as well as the Anglo-Saxons and the Asians. So if black children do as well as everybody else on processing speed, if black children do as well as everybody else on nonverbal reasoning, if black children do as well as everybody else on working memory, why is there a consistent 10-point black-white, black-Asian test score? You know why? I neglected to give you the final composite. And guess what that one is called? Verbal comprehension. Do you know what that is? That's the words and ideas white people use that black children never heard of, don't need to know about, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are. In fact, we call verbal comprehension crystallized intelligence. Do you know what that means? It is based on how well you've been educated. So what is it doing in an IQ test? IQ test is supposed to measure native intelligence, not learned information. So you know why they leave it in the IQ test? Because without it, there's no black-white test gap. The white privilege is in the verbal scale. So you say, Dr. Umar, why don't we get them to take it out? They'll never take it out Because if they take it out, the fallacy of white intellectual superiority falls apart. And if they take it out, black children in Florida might start scoring higher than white children in Florida. And you can't have black children in Florida scoring higher than white children in Florida because you upset the status quo. Now you got to ask, why we only got 2 black students working on a medical degree at the University of Florida if blacks are scoring higher? Why you only got a handful of blacks at Florida State working on a law degree if the black kids are scoring higher? If the black children outscore the Asians and Anglo-Saxons, you no longer have an excuse for white privilege. So they use test scores to keep black people in their place. America tests more than any other nation on earth for that very purpose of denying opportunity. Because guess what, brothers and sisters? If you intend to teach everybody, you don't need a graduation exit exam. In fact, how is it possible that I can have straight A's and B's on my report card for 12 years and fail a graduation test? As Brother Malcolm said, you've been had, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, and led astray.
While sports and hip-hop provide a blueprint for success that education fails to show in a way that feels attainable, right? We have talked about the education experience. For many young black boys, school isn't a place of learning and discovery, but a place of discipline. Why? Because statistics show that black boys are more likely to be suspended or even being labeled as troublemakers for the same behaviors as their peers. Whereas we see on the basketball court or in a rap battle, the same energy, the same aggression, the same competitive spirit, the same swagger is being celebrated, which was labeled as troublesome, right? So if a system makes you feel like an outsider from age 6, then what is the reason for signing up for 4 more years at the university? So let's talk about money because it really plays a bigger part in this discussion. Colleges are always at an all-time high in terms of cost. And for a young black man coming from a low-income background, taking on a $40,000 just to study for a maybe job or a maybe career, I mean, it is not assured that after studying you'll find job or you'll be employed, right? It really feels like a great risk to take. So sports and music are seen as the great escape. Even though the odds of joining NBA are slim, the entry fee is usually low, right? So you just need a ball and a hoop, right? You just need your phone and a beat. So what's the fix? My honest opinion, the fix is not about telling black men to stop liking sports, right? But it is about making the classrooms feel as high stakes and rewarding as the court. I want to hear your take on this. How do we create a more conducive environment for more young black men to join and enroll in our colleges and universities? Share your opinion in the comments below and let's create an engaging conversation. This is the Nick Report and I'm your host Nick. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribe, like, share and comment. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.